Yes, because this is the day that the Lord has made. Not me or you, but this is the day that the Lord has made. And I don't know about you, but I will rejoice. I'm not going to allow what I'm going through to make me sad, but I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. God bless you. God bless you. Giving honor to the pastor of this household, my spiritual leader, thank you for this opportunity. To my family, to my parents, my brother, my grandmother that's watching and looking and listening at home, God bless you. Romans 8, verses 18 through 21 is where I'll be reading. Romans 8, verse 18 through 21. Romans 8, verses 18 through 21, and it reads as this. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. For the creation was subjected to frustration, not by its own choice, but by the will of the one who subjected it in hope. And the last verse, verse 21 says, that the creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay and brought into the freedom and glory of the children of God. God bless you. You may be seated. For a few moments, I just want to leave you with two words. As I was seeking God to direct me, what can I say that can transform lives and impact lives? And he gave me these two words. It's working. It's working. So tap on yourself and just remind yourself it's working. It's working. Many times as we go through our lifetime as Christians and believers, we think what we're going through is permanent. But I just stopped by to let you know it's temporary. It's working. It may not be active right now. It may not be in the movement that you may want it to be going, but it's working. It's working. So for a few moments, I want you to remind yourself, when you're getting down, when you're down and out, you're sad, you're sick, you may be broke, just say it's just temporary issues that I'm going through right now. It's temporary because we must know that we serve a permanent God that places temporary issues in our lives to build our spiritual muscles. See, if we go to the gym, if we work out ourselves, my brother is a personal trainer, you have to train yourself so that you can lift higher things or more things that you may not be able to handle if you were just a little baby in God. But God says, I have to put you through these obstacles. I have to put you through this test so that when you get on the top of the world, you will be able to handle it. So if we look at that first verse, it let us know that I teach my students, I teach 7th grade and 8th grade social studies at Adams Middle School. And I tell them we can't just look at the question and get the answer. We got to dissect it and break it down. So when we look at that first verse, it's the key word present. It says present, meaning it's not meant to be there forever. So those issues that you're going through, it's just right now. So if we look at the second verse, verse 19, it says, for the creation waits in eager expectation. See, as human beings, we don't like to wait all the time. With our life, with issues in our lifetime, we want to put it in the microwave and throw it away. But God says sometimes you have to wait and simmer in that thing. Because as you marinate in that situation, you're learning some things. You're learning some things. So you know how grandma make them good oxtails and that turkey. You don't just throw it in the pot, but you have to marinate it. You have to let it sit on the stove so it can soak in. And that's exactly when God places us in situations and tests and circumstances. He said you have to marinate it in sometimes. You have to sit in it. You have to wait on it. If we look at verse 20, it says, for the creation was subjected to frustration. We don't pick these issues that come in our life. We don't pick the problems that we may face. But God says he got all control. He's in control of everything. It says, this joy that I have, this world didn't give it to me. So the world can't take it away. Meaning these issues can't cause me enough trouble because God, the God in me, says it's going to be all right. When we used to grow up in New Mount Zion, we'll hear devotional, I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling. It may not look like it, but I've got a feeling that everything is going to be all right. So we just broke down that first verse, that second verse. We know that these temporary issues is just presently here. So it's just temporary stuff. If we look at the other verse, it says it does not equate to what's to come. It does not equate to what's to come. So we must know that what we're going through right now does not compare to what God has for us in the future. You may be broke right now. You may not have enough money to pay your bills, but in 10 years, you may be on the top of the world. You may have some pain in your body. You may not be able to walk right now, but God can heal that leg. God can touch that heart. God can touch that hand. What you're going through will not equate, and it cannot compare to what God has in store for us. So if we look at verse 19, we learn that we have to wait sometimes. But the other key word that we can look at is expectation. See, as Christians and as believers, we have to have hope to what's in store for us. We have to have hope, knowing that it may not look good right now. If I jump in the water, if I jump in the sea, I may not be able to swim, but I know that I got a God in me that can pick me up. So in the midst of the storm, in the middle of the situation, I know that God can see me through. So if we're looking at verse 20, we know that sometimes in our lives, we're going through some things. It may be it getting us down. We may be sad. You may not pass the test right now, but your time is coming. You may not win the game right now, but your time is coming. The disease may be wrecking your body, but your time is coming. God is teaching you to praise in the midst of the situation. See, as Christians and as believers and in the human nature of us, we want to wait until we get the victory. But God says you got to praise me in the middle of that thing. In the middle of it. It may be raining outside, but still praise my name. Your leg may be hurting you right now, but still praise my name. Raise your hand if you can't move your leg. Move your hand if you can't move your head. He said, just praise my name. The present sufferings does not compare to the future glory. With God, we can do anything. We can do anything with God, but alone, we cannot do anything. With God, we can do anything. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's the type of God we serve. That's the type of God that's woke us up this morning so we can come to 8 a.m. service to remind ourselves it's working. That's tip number one, it's working, but we must know that it's worth it. It's working and it's worth it. So what I'm going through right now, I need it for the next chapter of my life. It's working and it's worth it. You need to write that down. It's working and it's worth it. See, when I teach my students, you have to dissect that word working. Work meaning it already happened. Working meaning it's in the process of doing so. So anything that have ing meanings, it's in the progress of going forward. So no matter what you're going through, it's working. Meaning it may not be around the corner, but I know it's coming. So we must remember what Jesus did upon the cross. He didn't just get up. He could have changed the whole scenario if he really wanted to. But he stayed there. He stayed there. See, you got to stay there sometimes. You have to stay there sometimes. You have to sit there sometimes. See, God could have got up and changed the whole scenario. He could have hurt those that talked about him. He could have hurt those that put him upon the cross, but he stayed there. See, when you stand there, you're not only teaching yourself a lesson, but you're teaching those around you a lesson. See, even though I'm going through this, the God in me says, it's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. It's working, and it's worth it. It's working, and it's worth it. So when you go to your job and your boss is making you mad, or your students in your classroom is frustrating you, you go home and your loved one is making you mad, just say it's working, and it's worth it. The doctor may give you a bad report. It's working, and it's worth it. It's working and it's worth it. So when these tests come up in our life, just tap on yourself. They may think you crazy because you're talking to yourself, but say it's working and it's worth it. With God, we can do anything. And for these last few moments, let me remind you, with God, we can do anything. Alone, we cannot do anything. We have the ability, as we know a scripture in the Bible that we hear often, they shall mount up with wings and fly like eagles. But we must know that God gives us the ability to fly. It says they shall run and not faint. God gives us the ability to walk and to run. It says we should not faint. God gives us the spirit and the energy to continue on, and it sustains us to go through the things that we may face in our lifetime. We don't choose these problems. We don't choose these issues and these circumstances. But with God, we can get through it. God has all the power and the control, no matter how big the giant may be. My first sermon, I preached on David and Goliath. No matter how big your giant may be, it just take a little rock. It just take a little rock. It just take a little rock. See, what you may think is little, in God's eyes, is big. What you may think is big, in God's eyes, is small. What you may think is an issue for you is only a little thing, a little teardrop that he can change in a minute or a second. With God, we can do anything. We must know that it's working and it's worth it. So as I close, let us remember what Jesus did. The greatest example of them all. He got up with all power in his hands. It took 3 days for him. He stayed there all day Friday, all night Friday, all day Saturday, all night Saturday. But early, it said joy comes in the morning. Early Sunday morning, he got up with all power in his hands. So no matter what I'm going through right now, it may not be on the third day, but I know I'm getting up from here. It may not be on the third day, but I know I'm getting up from here. Because I can look at Jesus, who got up with all power in his hands. So I dare you. I dare you. I challenge you. Get up. Shake those grave clothes off. Shake those grave clothes off and get up. Get up. Get up. Don't be depressed. Don't be depressed. Don't be oppressed. Don't be suppressed. Get up. Get up. We have to look at Jesus, the greatest example of them all. It's working and it's worth it. I'm down and out, but it's working and it's worth it. People talking about me, but it's working and it's worth it. I can't pay my bills, but it's working and it's worth it. Friends backstabbing me, but it's working and it's worth it. Don't know where my friends may be, but it's working and it's worth it. Don't know what tomorrow may bring, but it's working and it's worth it. It's working and it's worth it. Get up. God bless you.